we are back with another episode of JR Takes. As always, Ryan and I coming at you with the latest Seattle sports news. And, well, we got a new coach coming into town, as we both know. We learned the news and talked about it last episode with Pete Carroll's departure. And a couple coaches have been signed to some new franchises. We got Jim Harbaugh being taken off the board last week. I never really thought we had a chance for him anyway. What are your overall thoughts on the coaching search and how it's been going so far?
It's been interesting because you have two guys in Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll who, they're older, but they've had as much success as any coaches ever, particularly Belichick. And they both remain unhired. And at this point, there's only two NFL teams right now that don't have a head coach. Us and the Washington Commanders. So it's a little strange that we're this deep into the process and those guys are sitting there potentially without a job till 2025. That's kind of the direction it seems like it's heading, because I guess I could maybe see the Commanders making a run at him. I don't see us doing that at all for Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick?
I don't see how that would work. Do you think Belichick would even interview with us, or John would interview him? It seems like
I don't know. It's tough to say. I don't know if he would be a good fit here. Personally, I'm having a hard time looking at Bill's past 3 seasons without Brady and thinking that he would go to the Commanders and have success. So it's tough to say. I'm still kind of on he's still the greatest coach, one of the greatest coaches ever. But his past few seasons has made me question how much of that was Brady.
Yeah, it's definitely hasn't been a good track record post 20 and even 2019.
He did make the postseason with Mac Jones.
Did he win a playoff game?
No.
Yeah, so we're going the last time Bill Belichick won a playoff game was 2018, unless I'm mistaken, because that was the year they won that. What happened in 2018, actually? I can't remember. Didn't they win that terrible Super Bowl against the Rams?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, since then, and granted, that was only 5 years ago that he won a Super Bowl, but that was with Brady, and since then, it's been very un-Bill Belichick-like results.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised he got 2 interviews with the Falcons, and then they decided to go with Raheem Morris. That was a little bit of a surprise to me.
I don't know why you make that move. I think the only thing I can reason that out with is that maybe Bill Belichick is like, I want to be the GM as well as the head coach. And
yeah,
dude, Bill,
you've proven that you can't do that.
Your GM work has been terrible for a while, honestly.
So much so that they've memed you on the internet. And you probably don't even know it.
Yeah, he's
about him drafting the white quarterback and turning him into a receiver, and he's from South Dakota State or something like that.
Yeah, or he's like, give me N'Keal Harry over DK Metcalf and fucking AJ Brown or whoever was all on the board. I think even Debo could have been a Patriot, so that's not a very good GM track record there in particular.
No. But that being said, with those names being taken off the board, who do you want for your personal? Who would be your number one selection with the guys remaining left on the board to be our next head coach?
So there's two topics of discussion here in my eyes. There's what I want us to do, and then there's the actions we've taken post Pete Carroll firing, and they don't necessarily match up because the people we've brought in for interviews and second interviews, I got to be honest, it's been a pretty underwhelming list. I can't remember because it's been such a flurry of news over the last 2 weeks. If we've interviewed Ben Johnson, I want to say we at least...
How could we have if he's still in the playoffs and we can't hire or interview Mike McDonald? That's always been my confusion with this whole thing.
Is it the Rooney Rule is the name for it?
Well, no, because they're both white guys, right? Or isn't the rule to interview minorities?
I thought it was you can't interview a coach till after they've played one playoff game or something. Or
I thought the Rooney Rule was to shine light on minorities not being hired, but in my opinion, that's like bullshit in the first place, because it's like, oh, even if you go with the white coach anyway, you're still interviewing those guys to like check mark a box of, oh, we did our due diligence, but we still went with this guy anyway. So it's like, I don't know. The Rooney Rule has always been a little bit like the NFL could do a little more than just, oh, they interviewed 2 minorities, but they didn't get the job.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
We don't need to get into that here.
It's
but
not something I fully understand the ins and outs of anyway, so I feel like I can't really have a take on it. But
sure.
I do know that for sure we can't interview either of my top 2 guys, which I'll just, start off with that.
Right.
Ben
right.
Johnson and Mike McDonald are a very clear 1 and 2 to me, and they were immediately after Pete Carroll got fired. It's been kind of shocking that they haven't landed a job yet. I think part of it is just because teams got impatient, and these are 2 teams that are 2 guys that are coaching teams in the conference championship right now. So
right.
obviously their head, unless they're like a certain UW coach, is fully centered on getting to the Super Bowl and winning a championship. So the interviews are like, all right, we're gonna wait till we either win or we're done till we get to that point. But yeah, those are my top 2 guys, and I, in theory, would like us to get an offensive-minded head coach, because it's actually something John Schneider brought up in an interview last week or the week before. You see a lot of offensive coordinators get snatched up after like 1 or 2 good seasons and become head coaches because they do an excellent job. There's a lot of great minds. The Shanahan tree in particular comes to mind, the McVay tree. Even Shane Waldron picked up a job immediately. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to be said for that. I think since 2022, every team in the NFL has changed offensive coordinators. So there's
within a 2-season span, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's tremendous movement at that position in the coaching staff. So if you get a guy like Ben Johnson, who, look at Jared Goff's performance under him, and their running game, they're just across their board, they've had a great offense, and it's not perfect, but no team is, and no coordinator is. So I think he would just be a home run hire, and definitely would be really beneficial to just have someone that has that offensive mind in the head coaching seat and can't just be yanked after a good year, because let's say we hire the Dolphins offensive coordinator as our offensive coordinator. That's a lateral move that's unlikely to happen, but just for the sake of conversation, if we, go 14-3 next year and have a top 5 offense, he's going to be a head coach somewhere the year after that. So it's hard to maintain consistency with your coach, quarterback, and coordinator there. So that's the inherent advantage, I think, to getting an offensive guy. Like, look at Shanahan. Do they even have an OC? I don't know.
I don't know what his name would be off the top of my head, but yeah, I'm with you. I think a lot of times when a team moves off of their coach, they go with the other side of the ball, coaching the team, and I heard this the other day, and I totally forgot that this happened. Do you remember when the Niners fired Harbaugh, and then they brought in Tom Sula to coach for like a year or 2? The guy,
I don't even remember
the guy with the
that.
mustache.
No. Oh wait! Holy shit!
Yeah, I heard that the other day, and I was like, that was wiped from my memory.
Yeah, that's like a core memory unlocked.
Yeah, and so I thought about that, and I was like, oh yeah, the Niners were really irrelevant when they did that, and then they spent a bunch of money to bring in a bright offensive mind that was kind of the opposite of what I don't even know what he was. He was there like for damage
He was like a Jim Mora, I guess. I feel like that was probably an obvious stopgap move by ownership there.
For sure. But yeah, just I guess my point here being is I would like to go in the offensive direction, because before Pete Carroll we had Jim Mora, but before him we had Mike Holmgren, who was an offensive-minded coach. And I just think that the way the NFL, the direction it's moving is it caters so heavily towards the offense anyway. I kind of think it's like a if you can't beat him, join him type situation. Like Pete Carroll's defensive teams were great, but I'm kind of ready to turn the page to the next chapter of what our Seahawks team, what the culture is, and what we can do on the field.
Yeah, and exactly to your point, if we bring in a guy that's been around for a while and is a defensive-minded guy like a Raheem Morris, so that was my probably worst-case scenario hire for us. Mm-hmm. So I'm really glad that the Falcons just took that option off the table for us. It doesn't even make sense to me because Pete Carroll is, in my opinion, better than those guys. So what's the point of moving on from him if you're just going to bring in a worse version from him? I know that's not exactly what they would be doing, but
that's kind of why I've never wanted Dan Quinn to begin with. I did kind of want Mike Vrabel because he's different.
Well, and he's a great coach. I don't understand why the Titans fired him.
Yeah, and Vrabel, I keep hearing as of late that he's no longer on our radar. I don't know why or what made that happen, but that leads me to believe that maybe we are going after an offensive guy like Ben Johnson. But
yeah, and with Schneider's comments too. I mean, he has a way of kind of dropping subtle hints about what his strategy is for the draft or for just any hire in general. So I think all the signs are pointing in that direction. All that being said, Mike McDonald stifled the 49ers offense when the Ravens and 49ers played earlier this season in a way that I really haven't seen. I mean, the Browns did it, but they were the best defense at home, period, this year. And I think they were really just more carried by their talent than anything else. But the Ravens, I mean, they have good players, but besides Roquan Smith and maybe Kyle Hamilton, you wouldn't really call out most of the Ravens defensive players as superstars, so that they're being just really well coached and really well disciplined. And I think he is clearly a home run as a head coaching candidate just because of how good he's been with that Ravens defense. And everywhere he's gone, he's been awesome.
He also has the young factor, which is kind of important to me. It seems like the league is getting younger as all around as far as head coach's age is concerned. Mm-hmm. And it kind of makes me wonder why Bill Belichick isn't I'm wondering it's not ageism or anything like that, but it's is it are these guys too old to connect with the Gen Zers of this generation?
Can you imagine Bill Belichick trying to relate to some broccoli-headed kids that are wearing pajama pants?
No, I mean, I won't. I don't think I'll ever forget seeing that video of Bailey Zappi after he beat the Steelers and him having to congratulate Bill for him winning the game. It's that's insanity.
Yeah, and just his immediate demeanor shift after that too was really it's almost jarring watching that clip.
Yeah, so I don't know. I the Mike McDonald hire does intrigue me a bunch. I think I'd rather go with Benjamin, but I would be happy with both.
Yeah, I mean, to me they're 1 and 1A. Ben Johnson's 1, McDonald being 1A, but either way, that's a home run. I'm popping a bottle of champagne if we hire one of those guys. Totally. And the fact that, if you think about it, there's only one other team trying to hire a head coach right now, so there's nothing stopping us from getting one of those two guys besides John Schneider's opinion being way different than ours, which, as I was alluding to earlier, I think that may be the case. Just based on who we've brought in for interviews so far, I mean, you got Ihiro Evero from the Panthers getting 2 interviews, I believe. Mm-hmm. Someone's going to have to explain that to me because I don't get it.
I think I heard an explanation of it the other day. The initial interviews were over Zoom.
Yeah.
And so that's why they're all getting second interviews is because the second interviews are in person.
That sounds plausible to me. Another name on that list is Dan Quinn, and I would say he's probably the favorite.
I know. I keep hearing that he is. And, I mean, I don't think it would be the end of the world if we hired him. KJ Wright seems to be his number one choice. And, I mean, the guy played for the goddamn team for nearly a decade. So I trust his judgment.
I do, but also, look, I'm not saying we know more than NFL players because we don't. But a lot of times NFL players' opinions are just...
They are a little biased. His especially because he played for us and he played for him, and he probably has, a good personal relationship with him that he wouldn't with the other guys.
Well, and he played for him damn near a decade ago, too. So it's like the league has changed dramatically since 2015. Or no, Dan Quinn wasn't even here in 2015. It's been a decade since he was our DC. So I think Dan Quinn is an excellent defensive coordinator. I'd love to have him in that position. Doesn't seem likely. I heard a bonkers rumor that Dan Quinn and Chip Kelly were going to come to us as a package deal.
I think that was just like like someone was bored.
Yeah, I agree. And I saw so many rumors that the Falcons were getting Bill Belichick, and it didn't happen. So I feel like you have to take everything you hear with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, everyone is just taking something they hear indirectly and running with it until it's reported from like Schefter.
Also, Chip Kelly had like one of the worst NFL experiences like that I can remember as an NFL fan.
Yeah,
like it was like one of the weirdest. Remember, like you had all the Eagles players like looking over at the sideline.
It was a total college operation.
Yeah, and we were like, "What the fuck? Like this is weird."
I wouldn't be devastated with him as an offensive coordinator because he's had really good offenses in college. Mm-hmm. And if he's not totally at the helm of everything like a head coach is, I wouldn't be, devastated. But I just feel like, the whole Dan Quinn thing in general is like I'm not mad about it, but I feel like it's a missed opportunity because who's he bringing in? It's not just the head coach here. It's the whole fucking coaching staff was essentially let go with Pete Carroll. So I think everyone besides Larry Izzo, our special teams coordinator, and maybe even him too, I don't know, like it's total speculation at this point, is probably gone. So you got to hire a guy who's got to then hire like 10, 12 guys. So there's a lot of moves to be made here. This is going to be probably a pretty long process before it's finished.
Yeah.
And I think Dan Quinn has objectively a pretty good track record as a DC and a coach. He's been to a Super Bowl more recently than, we have. Mm-hmm. But as you were saying earlier, I really just feel like we need to go young. And if you nail the hire of a young guy that's in his 30s, 40s, whatever, he could be your coach for like 20 years. That's how you have stability as a franchise. And that's really what the Seahawks have had between Mike Holmgren and Pete for the last 24 years. So, 23 minus Jim Mora. We'll pretend like that year didn't happen. I think that's the direction we need to go here. And a couple guys that we haven't mentioned yet are Bobby Slowick, the Texans offensive coordinator. I think that one is like, I would be a little concerned about it just because really it's not like the Texans were some elite offense this year. CJ Stroud had an excellent, he's probably going to be rookie of the year if not Puka Nacua. But I feel like it's like him and Ben Johnson, it's not even close.
My opinion on that is if we do go with Slowick or someone of like, who was the guy from Carolina or the Giants? Those two. If we go with either of those three, then that means that they like pulled off like a incredible interview or something. Mm-hmm. And it just is like, it's not going to make sense to anyone on the outside, and we just have to wait and see.
And that's the whole side of this that we don't see and we're not going to see because we're not in the fucking business. So that's why when I open up talking about this, I feel like the information Schneider is working off of is vastly different than what we're working off of. So it's a little hard to gauge, but I guess there's really no one I would be furious with. There's a couple of guys, Kafka, Evero, Dan Quinn, that I would be a little underwhelmed with. Slowick, I'd be like excited, but like you're taking a pretty big swing on a guy that hasn't done a lot.
Right.
And then the first two that I named, Ben Johnson and Mike McDonald, are the home runs. So I'd say overall we're in a good spot, but unfortunately it's like every day that goes on with us not having a head coach, I'm like almost getting like anxious. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, this is more important than your quarterback or any other position, and it's probably gonna bleed on for at least another week.
At least till the Super Bowl if both of these teams win, both the Lions and the Ravens. I would say.
And it probably could even linger on to like mid-February, realistically, because the Super Bowl is second week of February. Yeah, a lot could happen.
And then the 16th is when we have to make the decision on Geno.
Is it?
I think I heard that somewhere. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I did hear something about the 16th being an important date for Seahawks. So.
I think given that Schneider is kind of in the driver's seat with the roster, Geno's probably going to be our quarterback next year. I think it's unlikely that he wouldn't be, but I don't think it's unlikely that we draft a quarterback. I just feel like any sort of blockbuster move, like if people are holding their breath for that, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. That pretty much wraps up the coaching hunt for me this week. Do you want to move on to playoff outcomes and playoff predictions?
Yeah, so if you watched our video of our playoff predictions from the wild card round a couple weeks ago, just delete that from your memory because our picks were terrible for the most part.
Hey, my Niners are still in it. I took them to win the Super Bowl.
I took them to get there, and my brain was telling me it was going to be Niners-Ravens, but I just wanted the Bills to win, and they build it up in the most Bills fashion possible last weekend against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are they really have become the new version of the Patriots.
They remind me so much of, remember all those Patriots teams that weren't that good, but they just won the Super Bowl?
Yeah, like the 2018 Patriots were so mediocre.
Yeah.
The 2016 Patriots, I think they were like okay that year, but they also made the conference championship like every season, and Mahomes has literally made it every year now, which is pretty wild. That's incredible, but you get sick of it as a fan that isn't a Patriots or Chiefs fan. It's boring.
I gotta say it's really impressive he did that with the AFC being so fucking stacked with quarterbacks. But like, I've just seen this script. I already saw it for 20 years. So, like, when I see it again, I'm like, all right, I guess we have this to look forward to. Sweet.
Yeah, at least he's a more exciting, dynamic player than Tom Brady, but the end result kind of leaves you feeling the same way.
Yeah, but he took that away, though, when he cried, like, 4 weeks ago when he didn't get his way in the Bills game. And then, of course, Josh loses to Patrick in the AFC Championship game or divisional round and is a man about it. He's not going to cry about the refs, this, that, and the other. But yeah, it was a tough one seeing the Bills go down like that. I really wanted them to win.
Yeah, I feel like Josh Allen gets a lot of unfair criticism because the guy is fucking incredible. Like, he is at worst the third best quarterback in the league. And he played a great game. He missed that one throw where he was pressured by Chris Jones, where he was going for the end zone on like a 2nd and 9 or something. And people are like, he has Stephon Diggs wide open. First of all, if you really watch that play from an angle besides the TV angle, you can see one of the Chiefs defenders is coming off his guy in zone and is going to crush Diggs like right after he catches the ball. So it's like, yeah, he would have caught the ball and gained like 4 yards and it would have been 3rd and 5. Does that make that much of a difference? Their kicker shanked it by a mile.
Yeah.
So he would have missed a 28-yard field goal with the way he kicked that. I don't know. I
was
think,
pretty disappointed with Diggs, too, because Diggs,
dude, that drop he had
the second half of the season.
That drop he had on that like 64-yard bomb.
That was like
Allen.
one of the craziest throws I've ever seen.
I know, and it hit him like right here. Like Diggs, that was automatic for years. I don't know what's going on there. There's just there's a lot of bad vibes in Buffalo, oddly enough. Like stemming from Stephon Diggs and some other players on that team. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a bummer because I really like Stephon Diggs, but he's disappeared in the moments where they needed him the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then we had the Packers blowing it against the 49ers.
Oh, I thought you were going to say blowing out the Cowboys.
Oh, right.
Because we haven't done an episode since before all the playoffs started.
Yeah. So. As I said, it is, I don't know if it was a political decision in like 1997 or something, but it is illegal for the Cowboys to get to the NFC Championship. It will not happen.
The Lions did it before.
That's all you need to say about it, honestly.
Dude, I won't be surprised if the Browns do it next. The Browns are going to do it before the Cowboys. You heard it here first. They're going to go to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I would bet on that.
Yeah.
And this year the Cowboys had like such a like golden opportunity to get there because I don't think
to the Super Bowl in the NFC this year was not difficult.
No. The Buccaneers almost made it to the NFC Championship.
I mean, look at the Lions. Let's be real. The Lions, they're a great offense. Their defense,
pretty suspect.
They could get blown out on Sunday. We don't know. So
there's
that
a part
should
of
just
me
tell
that
you it's like a kind of a crapshoot when you're talking about the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, the only consistent NFC team this year was the 49ers. It's been so painful to watch 15 teams just stumble over their own feet all season, and then this one team that's pretty dang good and manages to be consistent just has a easy ass path to the Super Bowl. It's terrible. But I don't know, maybe the Lions, I guess if we want to get into our predictions, maybe the Lions can pull off the upset. I really don't see it happening.
I don't either.
I kind of feel like the Lions are going to get their shit rocked by the 49ers because Brock Purdy played a bad fucking game last week and they still won. It's just really hard to stop a team when their defense and running game is that excellent.
Yeah, and do you know what the weather is supposed to be like?
I think it's supposed to be decent, like a Santa Clara January
it's not supposed
day,
to rain.
Sunny, low
Okay.
60s, something like that.
Yeah, I think the weather will have a big impact on how much points are scored. I feel like if it's rainy, it's going to be an ugly, muddy, just rushing attack of a game. But I think the Niners are going to win, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just think, Debo went down, but I've heard he's probably going to play in the game, and
he's going to play.
That's such a big factor for them. So unless Trent Williams breaks his toe play one, I just don't see Jared Goff going in there. Mostly because of the 49ers defense, to be honest, and the fact that
they're not playing in a dome.
Yeah, it could get ugly with that pass rush of the 49ers. And then on the other side, this could be the game of the year. I know we said that about the Bills and Chiefs, and it kind of delivered. I felt like the ending was like the Game of Thrones ending, where it was just you ruined it at the finish line.
Yeah.
But the Ravens at home versus the Chiefs, I gotta go with the Ravens here. And there's a part of me that's the Chiefs are just gonna find a stupid way to win.
I'm just not gonna bet against Mahomes anymore. I gotta go Chiefs.
It's definitely not a smart bet, but I have to just be objective, and the Ravens are a better team. The Chiefs receivers are fucking terrible.
The Bills were a better team.
They were, and they played better than the Chiefs, and they still lost. So
Yeah.
I think the only thing that could cause the Ravens to lose this is if Lamar poops his pants, or if there's a crazy turnover on a punt or something, which could happen. I mean, it's football.
We've seen Lamar implode too when things aren't going his way. Granted, he's a lot more of a mature quarterback than that version of Lamar.
For sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think I'm not gonna. I bet against the Chiefs with the Bills. I'm not gonna do that again because they just keep disappointing me. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
going Chiefs Niners Super Bowl.
It's a Super Bowl nobody wants, but it's probably the Super Bowl we're gonna get. I think the Ravens making it would at least be a consolation, because I think they could beat the 49ers as they demonstrated earlier in the season. If the 49ers and Chiefs are in there, I'm just I guess I'll be rooting for the Chiefs, but we already watched.
Dude, I think I'm gonna be rooting for the Niners.
We just watched the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
And I think the Chiefs are going to win, though, because I just cannot picture Purdy winning a Super Bowl this early.
I can't either.
That would be crazy.
I can't picture him doing it at all, but I mean, I continue to just watch him win when I don't want him to. So, whatever. He's going to do whatever the fuck he wants, apparently, in that 49ers offense. So, yeah, hopefully this time, next podcast, we have some more information about the head coaching search, but that's pretty much all we got for this one.
Yep. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll have Benjamin or Mikey Mickey D's.
Mikey McDonald's.
Yeah, as our next head coach.
If we hire Mike McDonald's, we got to get a Big Mac in celebration.
Okay, fine.
All right.
All right.
Catch you on the next one.
Yep.